about another Wild Wednesday on the Fan, and we're running it back from last week with tickets to Wild versus Canucks on April 2nd. Just use the iHeartRadio app. It's free, by the way, to send us a talkback and tell us who scores first for the Wild tomorrow night against the Panthers. Get the full details at KFAN.com. Keyword contests.
This is 9 to noon at FM 100.3 KFAN. Those of you joining via the iHeart audio app across the Great Divide, around the country, around the world. Those of you wiggling your toes in Turks and Caicos white sand, taking time to listen to 9 to noon at KFAN, we greatly appreciate it. The football portion of the equation today, at least up until 11 o'clock. Blake Barrett's, who's locally based, somebody I've known for many years. He's an agent, and he is the president and founder, the owner of Institute for Athletes, which is locally based. Blake represents, but when they were playing, represented the likes of Adam Thielen, C.J. Ham. Also represents former Vikings defensive tackle Jonathan Allen. And I think he has 2, 3, or 4 rookies heading into the NFL draft, or heading into the NFL as rookies. So we will mix in football with a double B. Blake Barrett's when he's in studio about 11 o'clock. That'll take place about 55 minutes from now. Good morning. And one of the topics to come up is something that I saw reading a Kevin Seifert story this morning at ESPN.com. Old school, best school. Kevin Seifert covers the Vikings in beat writing fashion. He'll be at the owners' meetings in, I believe, in Arizona next week. In fact, off that, Minnesota 3-2. Minnesota Vikings president and co-owner Mark Wilf is going to join 9 to noon Tuesday, and likely head coach Kevin O'Connell and acting general manager Rob Brzezinski. They both should join 9 to noon at some point next week from Arizona to talk about a bunch of business. And the business of the NFL right now includes this from Kevin Seifert at ESPN.com. The NFL Competition Committee has finalized a series of wide-ranging rule change proposals to account for the growing possibility, writes old school, best school, Mr. Kevin Seifert. And he is not of the bloviating or hyperbolic fashion. So when he writes growing possibility, it's a possibility that's growing. The proposals to account for the growing possibility of a work stoppage amid tense collective bargaining negotiations with the NFL Referees Association.
Oh my gosh. Can you more about that?
Personal foul, clipping, every single umpire, field judge, and side judge working in the NFL right now, replay every down. That's according to a list released by the league on Tuesday. The changes would only apply if the NFL hires replacement officials, a process it began preparing for earlier this month. What? The changes only would apply if the NFL hires replacement officials, a process it began preparing for earlier this month by reaching out to mostly small college officiating supervisors in an effort to develop a list of 150 replacement candidates. The NFLRA's current CBA, NFL Referee Association's current collective bargaining agreement, is set to expire May 31st. Much more to the Seifert story at ESPN.com, but final paragraph for the purpose of this segment. If a work stoppage were to continue into the regular season, the new rules would create a type of centralized officiating the league hopes would help avert the chaos encountered in 2012. What was the chaos in 2012? There was a lot. Green Bay Packer fans would know exactly what I'm talking about when you think back left of the end zone in Seattle and how that whole debacle went down. So the replacement officials worked the first 3 weeks of the season in 2012. It was a disaster. While each game still would be officiated from the field, staff members in the league's Game Day Central Command Center in New York would be permitted to weigh in on a wide variety of called and uncalled penalties.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's new. And would take on additional roles following the 2-minute warning and in overtime. So this is ambiguous. Certainly hoping it doesn't happen. With respect to officials looking to elevate, looking to ascend, and officiate games at the very highest level. So all of this comes with respect, and I do know it's a hard job. However, not exactly sure what to think of this, because at times officiating in the NFL is about the worst I've seen in my 24 calling them. And that comes, I guess, with respect. And it's not like it's the first time I've said it on the radio. And it doesn't have to be overmatched Trey Blake and his staff on a Thursday night game at SoFi looking right at Darnold, get face masked and pulled down. And you got two of these rubes looking at it, and neither one has the fortitude, or neither one, for whatever the reason, doesn't throw a flag. So it doesn't have to specifically involve the Vikings. That's an example right there. Think about the playoff game with Denver and I think New England, or Denver and Buffalo. I mean, the way that thing ended with that long pass. I mean, it's just, there are examples after examples after examples after examples if we really start thinking about it. But there are little things that are being missed during the bodies of games that just when you watch it back, you're like, what happened? Like, how? I mean, how? And, it's not the white hats, okay? Now, the white hats are the ones that we see on TV and hear on the microphones. So, like, old school, best school, white hat friend Bernie Kukar, Minnesotan Bernie Kukar, Gilbert, Minnesota go crazy. He loves Lutzen. He's retired. I think he officiated 3 Super Bowls. So those are the white hats. Those are the referees. The others are officials. So I'm not necessarily talking about the white hats here, the refs on the mics. It's the officials who are jumping levels for whatever the reason. It's been permitted over the last, say, 5, 6, 7 years, specifically 5 years, for individuals to either jump levels or not put in the time at D3, D2, D1 levels before they get to the NFL. So hear me when I tell you this. In my estimation, for what it's worth, in my 24 years of calling a lot of games, overall officiating in the NFL right now is the worst I ever have seen. It's inconsistent. And there are some would say many, I'm going to say some, they're just not ready. They're just not ready for the moment and the speed of the game and how to handle the game. I see it weekly. There are some that are just not ready. They're indecisive and they're overmatched. And if you get in the weeds on this and you know where to go and to whom to chat, you'll learn that there are a lot over the last 5 years of officials, not the ones who are in their way up to the white hat. They've done it for quite some time. Who are, they're just not needing, it's not permitted, they're not needing to put in the time at the lower levels. And they're skipping levels, man. And, you don't have to be Bernie Kukar, all right, calling like, and I'm going to miss this with the numbers, but you'll get the point. Calling MIAC football for 15 years. And then you go to Big Ten football for another 17 years. And lo and behold, there you are in the NFL. It doesn't have to be like that, but it has to be more than they're requiring now when they're elevating some of these ancillary officials. Players and coaches are so crafty. They'll put umpires and side and back judges and so on in position to make tough calls because they've seen on film certain people are legitimately having season-long problems and they can't get through it. And I'm talking again, side judges, back judges, umpires, not the white hats. And that's the group we have going now. All right. So you have a May 31st deadline with a collective bargaining agreement. The NFL developing a list of 150 potential replacement candidates. And yours truly, for what it's worth, saying it's about as bad now as I've seen it in a quarter century. And I've explained twice why. And so, like, those are the ones with whom the league would come back once the CBA collective bargaining agreement with the refs, with the officials, is solved. and it ain't great in the first place. So what would the replacements be like? What would the replacements be like? Seriously. And think about this. And with legalized gambling all over the place, would there be any concern with that when permitting replacements to officiate games at the highest level? I mean, it's not a concern of mine. I'm not conspiratorial that way. But I can tell you, if there are replacement refs for even a single week, people scream. People will scream in the age of rage if a call does not go their way, that ulterior motives may have played into said calls. And I think that's less than 1%. What will play into wonky calls or legitimately bad calls that everybody can see is the fact that a majority of these ancillary officials are just overmatched and they're not required to put in the time at the lower levels before they get to the big game. So the new deal deadline is May 31st. Hopefully everything works out, and I think it will. But that's popping right now when it comes to the NFL Competition Committee, the owners' meetings, and the NFL Referees Association. HOF hockey player Tony Granato joins 9 to noon next. And
KFAN welcomes some great shows to Mystic Lake Amphitheater. The Guess Who will be there June 25th. John Mellencamp on July 14th. And Guns N' Roses will be there August 8th. Get the complete details on all our upcoming shows on the concert page at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
all right, Tony, how do you and Kevin Gorg know each other?
Well, I came across Kevin when he was in his playing career, was an outstanding goaltender, was a, let's see what kind of very athletic goaltender when he was with the Burnsville Braves way back in the 80s. So he played with both my brothers, Donnie and Robbie. He was a state champion goaltender, and just loved the kid, loved his passion for the game of hockey, and he's been friends with our family for a long, long time.
Yeah, likewise. One of my very best friends for a quarter century, salt to the earth, and he speaks very highly of you, and the you would be HOF Tony Granato. And we're going to hit some of the now and then with Tony, and let's begin here. Who do you think will be a tougher out in the postseason? Dallas or Colorado?
I mean, I've been riding Colorado all year. I think from the start, they were the best team. They had that run to kind of pull away from everybody, and then all of a sudden in their rearview mirror, where no one expected them to be coming, Dallas has made their push to be right there with them. So they both deserve a ton of respect. And then come playoff time, lots of factors come into it. We always know, as goaltending being one of them. Are they healthy at the right time? Are they playing the best at the right time? So I would still say Colorado a little bit, but certainly Dallas is right there. And then let's not kid ourselves. Minnesota has built themselves a team that is going to be a hard out as well. So I think both of those teams are respecting Minnie as well. And it's going to be exciting as always. So looking forward to that. It's only a couple weeks away.
So, Tony, with the Avalanche, from what you know and what you follow, where can the Avs become weak? Like, where can they become vulnerable?
I personally, the goaltending thing, both the Wedgwood was the guy that is starting to take over for Blackwood. So both the Wood goaltenders there are the guys that they added last year to solidify that position. But by splitting them and kind of going back and forth and then saying, well, Blackwood's going to be our goalie and then Wedgwood, I think that might be the only flaw that I can see. The power play had struggled all year. It looks like it's got a little momentum going since Kadri came over and added a little bit something different to it. So the power play has been the Achilles heel of that team somehow, which you can't figure out for the life of me how that could be possible. But I think, you can get to the goaltenders if you do things right. And it's a lot of pressure on those goalies to have to perform. So if you can keep the games tight and find ways to make it hard on their goaltender, maybe gives you the best chance to win. But deep down from top to bottom, the four lines and the back end, they're deep. They don't have a lot of weaknesses in their lineup, and it's going to take a team that has to be really sharp, that has to take advantage of the chances, has to be good on both special teams, and has to pay the price to be able to hang with them. And again, when playoffs start, it's a brand new, clean slate. Lots of things can happen, and that's why they're going to be so exciting. And we'll see. In that division alone. I can see all three of those teams, Minnesota, Dallas, or Colorado, being able to survive it, because you're going to have to survive it. That's going to be a heck of a task to get through that. And, I think we're just going to sit back and enjoy it.
Hey, no doubt. We're going to get to the Wild more deeply momentarily with Tony Granato. But for you professionally now, Tony, what's it like analyzing Blackhawks hockey? I mean, are they sitting on some big things eventually?
The answer is yes. I mean, the youngest team in the NHL right now, they're driven by, obviously, Connor Bedard, the young defense. I mean, the oldest defenseman right now is 24 in their lineup, and they're not just defensemen that are just putting on jerseys and going out there. They're all guys that are capable of being the base and foundation of the team moving forward. And then you throw Anton Fondell, who's going to join the lineup tonight, into the mix. He's the third pick overall last year. And you got a line of Bedard, Green, and Frondell, and the oldest guy on that line is Green at 22. So the future is bright. There's obviously some things along the way that Kyle Davis and the GM can do to make decisions on packaging, maybe some picks and some other players to maybe add and accelerate the development. But as of right now, with what they have, it's not an overnight thing where you can just snap a finger and say, okay, they're going to win a Stanley Cup tomorrow. But they're certainly in a really good position to have a lengthy chance at some really good seasons and some really good opportunities to do well in the playoffs as well.
Well, they also have Minnesotan Oliver Moore. Now he's hurt.
And Sam Renzel. Don't forget about Sam and Ollie. And the other guy I forgot to mention, Spencer Knight. The guy that makes that team is exciting. Is for the future is the goaltender, because it was a piece last year before the trade for Seth Jones to Florida. They were thinking, okay, maybe Soderblom, and we got Comesso coming up. It wasn't the strength of the depth of the organization. Now I think it has become that. When you put Spencer Knight in that mix, he's in the same, class, so to speak, of age of the young kids. He's only 24. He really is calm. He really solidifies, that position for them. So that's a piece as well. But you mentioned Oliver Moore. I mean, he's been a big addition with his speed and his, his flawless adjustment to the NHL game has been fun to watch. And Sam Renzel, the other one from the Gophers, has been a really nice addition as well. And he fits into that young defenseman that I bragged about here a couple minutes ago.
Amen. And I brought up Ollie because I've known him since he was 19. And, one of the great sports moments that a lot of us have seen in the recent past was when the Blackhawks were in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Oliver Moore wins the game in the shootout on his 21st birthday. And getting to know Nick Foligno here a little bit, to talk to Nick about Oliver and how special that moment was. He's a special player and just a special human being. So we wish him well.
I just saw him on the bus on the way out here. We were talking Gopher hockey as well just a few minutes ago. So he is a phenomenal kid to be around. The excitement that he has and the passion that he has to play the game has been kind of contagious with this younger group. So he's been a big part of it. Obviously, he's injured and probably won't play the rest of the season. But he also had his great World Junior, gold medal run. So he's one that can win and is an important piece of what the Blackhawk future is.
Tony Granato is our guest, U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer, class of 2020. And as we mentioned earlier, had that excellent 13-year NHL playing career. Plus, there's a much more honored to be chatting with Tony right now. You mentioned the Wild when we talked Avs and Stars a little bit. Just paint with a broad brush. You're an elite hockey mind. What do you make of the Wild?
Well, I mean, what I do is this is Billy Guerin's year, isn't it, with what he's done and the decisions he made for the Olympic team to get them ready and to win, and then to make the trade for Quinn Hughes and be able to pull that off. I think they're in a good spot. I mean, Colorado and Dallas have had their run as far as doing what they've needed to do to kind of solidify themselves probably in the 1-2. Minnesota might have one little more push here as we get closer to playoffs. But I think they're sitting good. And everybody was, making an argument last week. Well, it's not fair that Minnie has to play Dallas in the first round or two of the, top three teams in the league, and one of them's going to be knocked out. I just think, at the end of the day, when you play in the playoffs, you gotta face challenges, and you gotta not flinch when something looks like, oh gosh, this doesn't look like it's quite right. You just go after it, and you see where you're at. You give it your best, and that mentality of a hockey player, and to say, hey, I'm in the playoffs now. It doesn't matter who you play or when you play them. You got to beat them at some point. So I think if it goes well, and the Wild, again, things have to be. They got to be healthy. The goaltender has to make the saves. Special teams have to step up. They can beat anybody, and so I think Billy has positioned them really nice with what they've done with the additions, and Coach Hines is probably feeling pretty good about his group as they head into the playoffs. Well,
Tony, channel the inner coach in yourself with this next question. So off what you just said about, I love that, not flinching. That's super key. Do you think the postseason plan is going to be to beat up Quinn Hughes in the corner? I mean, he's high end offensively, obviously, but he's on the diminutive side. And is he for sure crafty enough to avoid that chicanery?
Well, let me just ask you, every game plan that he's ever been faced, whether it be in the Olympics, whether it be in juniors, whether it be when he was at the development program when he was 16 playing against 20-year-olds, everybody's come after him. So it's nothing new to Quinn. That's one. Right. So that's not going to bother him. And two, again, a lot of times when you do that and you try to change your game, you try to set up a game plan to say, okay, our objective is to get to Hughes. And you forget why you are in first place or why you do have home ice advantage, and it acts as a deterrent and an interference to your actual game. So I don't think, if you're an underdog team and you're playing Minnesota, I don't think Colorado or Dallas are going to be in a position that they can change and adjust their game to think that their game plan is to shut Hughes down and be physical against them, because I think one, Quinn will make them look silly. And then two, if you do take penalties because you are getting sloppy, chasing them around the rink, it's only going to hurt you that much more. So strategically, yeah, you want to bump him when you can, but he's an awful hard guy to hit. I mean, how many years did they try to go after Gretzky and the other skilled guys, and they came out chasing him as opposed to finishing him? And I think that Quinn is one of those players.
That's beautiful. Tony Granato, your sister Cammie is a Hockey Hall of Famer. And I'm assuming she still has this role. How are things going for her as assistant general manager for the Vancouver Canucks?
She's enjoying it, obviously, with the position they were in 2 years ago when they won the Presidents compared to where they are now. Towards the bottom, it's a totally different mentality, I guess, where you're at from the management side of things. But the exciting part is now they're looking at all these players, Gavin McKenna and Stenberg and all these young D that are available early in the draft because they're going to be drafting high. And then you're thinking about trying to see what other young players they can add. They made some trades and some additions at the trade deadline. I think they're happy with the start of their rebuild, so to speak, but certainly the impact player is going to come if they do win the lottery or do finish in a position where they're drafting, one or two, that would make things a lot quicker on potentially getting that organization back to the winning. But it's exciting for her. She's been traveling a lot. She's certainly enjoying, being part of an NHL franchise. She's got great bosses there to work with, and Jimmy Rutherford and Patrick Alvin, the general manager, and her staff. So she's doing well and enjoying it.
You mentioned the great one, and Tony Granato was close friends with Wayne Gretzky and actually roomed with him during their L.A. Kings days. What was that like?
Well, it was a hot stove hockey kind of class every single day in the room, because you know how Gretz, when you watch him on TNT or you watch him whenever he's interviewed and he talks about the game of hockey, there's always something that you can hear, that you can learn, and you say, wow. It's something he just sees the game and describes it in a totally different way. That, man, oh man, I wish I would have thought of that first. So I had the good fortune of being his roommate for a couple years, being his line mate for a little bit of that time, and just enjoyed him as a person, as far as being just a regular teammate that would just want to hang with the guys. And sit there and talk hockey. So I was grateful for those days, moments. I wish I would have taken a recorder and recorded all of those conversations, because I could have wrote myself a nice book, or at least probably a library of books with everything I learned from him. But great human being, great family man. And I love seeing him when he's around on the panel or the board, or on TV, just reliving those moments and having him explain the game of hockey to anybody is a positive thing.
A couple of quickies to close here for HOF Tony Granato, who set a New York Rangers rookie record in 88 and 89 with 36 goals. What was it like being a Ranger in the Big Apple and playing at Madison Square Garden?
Obviously, when you make it to the NHL, you're like a little kid, living your dream. To do it in Madison Square Garden, to do it with some friends, Brian Leach I'd played with the year before on Olympic team, Mike Richter, as well. We joined the Rangers together. Pete Laviolette came up as well together. It was an experience. We had Guy Lafleur and Marcel Dion, two Hall of Famers. Wow. We had Chris Nyland. We had a lot of personalities and players on that team. As a young player, you realize how lucky you were to have those guys to kind of teach you and show you and set the example of what being a pro hockey player was. The other good fortune I had is I did play 4 years of college, and I did play an Olympic year. So I had 5 years after my draft year to kind of get ready for that moment, as opposed to going in as a young player. And, I look back on that, and I, I maybe had a chance to leave after my junior year, where I did talk to the Rangers about a potential contract and signing. And I feel very fortunate that I maxed out my collegiate eligibility and then got that bonus year with the Olympic team, because you can't go in over prepared. You just can't. If you go in under prepared, you might not ever make it. And for me to try those year or two before, I'm not so sure that my career would have lasted as long as it did or turned out the way it did. So I'm really lucky on that side of things. And like I said, I had great teammates and leaders that were great role models for me that I could learn from. And hopefully when I got to be an older player, I could leave that with the younger guys that I was fortunate enough to play with.
Last one, my brother, from when you coached the Wisconsin Badgers. What was it like leading and coaching Cole Caulfield when he was a Badger?
That's pretty easy from the standpoint. And this is what I try to explain to young coaches that's so important, is when you get special players, and we already talked about Gretzky. I also coached Crosby. I coached Forsberg, Sakic, Hayduk, lots of Patrick Waugh, who I saw this morning since I'm on the island, because you get opportunities to be around them. And then you see a young talent like Caulfield. You can always learn as much from them possibly more, even from the players that you coach, even when you're there, when you are their coach. So I look at it that way. It was a two-way thing. I learned a lot from Cole about different ideas and ways of goal scoring, different ways of playing the game offensively and thinking the game. And I just saw someone special there that, had something inside of them, the drive, the passion, the energy, but more the curiosity of trying to do things outside the box instead of the standard way of training and shooting pucks and doing things like everybody else. He wanted to always create something more challenging for himself to see if he could polish his skills in a different way. And that's what I remember most about coaching Cole.
Chance at top-tier tickets from Wild Hockey to huge concerts like Santana, the Doobie Brothers, Chris Stapleton, and more. Don't wait. Enter now at KFAN.com, keyword contest.
Any luck yesterday with It's Just Lunch?
I mean, come on, it ain't luck. We got the best of the best matchmakers on the case, though.
Let me rephrase that. I'm Christian, so I don't believe in luck. But nevertheless, let me rephrase that. Things going all right at It's Just Lunch for you and everybody who goes to It's Just Lunch?
Absolutely. It's never been better, PA. And it might be called It's Just Lunch, but the matchmakers are so good. It's going to be dinner and breakfast, too, though.
You're awesome. All right. News du Nord at times can be Brett's Bits and Bets and or Maxx's Musings. It's sports essentials, as some still call it. Or, if we were back in the Bloomington days, it would be your sports update at Flirty 11:30. And I'm Paul Allen. To the game where they play on the wood that is hard. And in Amsterdam, it's 69 and smoky. That's your Fan Traveler's forecast. And here's Max Fuller with Maxx's Musings.
It was announced earlier today that Minneapolis has submitted a bid to host the 2028 NFL Draft at U.S. Bank Stadium. The final decision rests with the full NFL ownership group. Around May 5th last year was when they awarded the 2027 draft to Washington, D.C., so maybe keep our eyes peeled and eagerly await that early May kind of date for anything official. Not for nothing, the economic impact from recent drafts is between $100 to $200 million, with more than 600,000 people attending last year in Green Bay. And I mean, come on, we're way better than Green Bay. We could get that sucker up to 800 at least.
Well, the NFL draft is a month from tomorrow, so therefore, generally being in late April, early-ish May, I guess at the very latest for rounds 4 to 7. The good news here is that for the corporate types the NFL sends, or the clients that are local or the NFL sends, we're not going to have to hear 2 weeks of complaining about the weather, like when they had Super Bowl 52 here, we had Super Bowl 52 here, and I guess that was kind of a handshake payoff. You get a new stadium developed, then you get a Super Bowl. But I mean, that was 52 and we just got done with 60. And there are no rumblings that, U.S. Bank Stadium is going to have a Super Bowl anytime in the near future. So let's do it with the draft. I think that'd be super cool when you get the people reporting on it who are reporting on it now. We're talking about the heavy hitters. For me, be like Shefty and .com Tom. When people like that are starting to share information like this, then I'm not going to say it's a fait accompli, that it's a completely done conclusion, but I'd be surprised if the 2028 NFL Draft is not at U.S. Bank Stadium. And, it's not necessarily a covenant cleanup provided by, but I'm just going to respectfully disagree with something the producer today, Maxwell Fuller, said, I think it was about an hour and 16 minutes ago, where he was like, It'd be so cool if we had the 2028 draft in Minneapolis. So cool that I hope we're really bad in 2027 so we have a top 3 pick.
I always love that one.
I'm like, I can do without the really bad part, but yeah, it'd be cool, man. So anything you want to say to the crowd about that statement you made?
I misspoke, PA. I got a little ahead of my skis there.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have said that.
Amen.
You're 100% right.
Amen.
I don't know what I was thinking, bro. I was tripping.
You misspoke. And subsequently, it stuck me $640. You may ask why. Because I had to buy you a round-trip ticket to New Orleans to walk around by yourself for 2 days.
I always love that one.
For 2 days. Okay, so anyway, 3-2, Max's Musings.
3-2. This one actually just came down the hopper about an hour ago. According to Shams Charania, the NBA's Board of Governors has approved a vote for the league to explore bids and applicants for expansion teams exclusively in Las Vegas and Seattle. A bidding process is expected to generate offers in the $7 to $10 billion range. And I believe I read also that it wouldn't be this next season, but the season after that is the season that they're targeting for possibly having these NBA expansion teams in Vegas and Seattle getting going here.
Okay, so when people talk about teams that like the Washington Wizards, okay, I'm from Washington, D.C. So when they were the Washington Bullets and single mom Shirley, God rest her soul, would take me and my friends, Eric Wainwright, Dwayne Bonds, and Lucius Tisdale, maybe Billy Camilio would go if his mom would let him. She would take us to Capitol Center once a month for Bullets games. It was like our once a month trip together. And I would watch Washington Bullets games with Kevin Greavy, Alvin Hayes, Wes Unseld. And the first NBA championship game I ever attended was late 70s between the Bullets and the Seattle Supersonics. Seattle had a guard who ended up becoming a star for the Boston Celtics named Dennis Johnson, God rest his soul. This was before the three-point line. And they had a player named Downtown Freddie Brown, who was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark was Caitlin Clark, and she's Caitlin Clark. Meaning Downtown Freddie Brown pulled up from the logo, no three-point line, and hit them all. The point being here is I don't like there not being basketball in Seattle. I think it's super cool to have a team in Seattle. So that's going to happen. And Las Vegas will move to 4 sports teams where they're going to get that baseball bit next to Mandalay Bay. And the hockey team at T-Mobile prints money. I mean, they do so well. Las Vegas Raiders, still very much a work in progress, but thanks to the transient nature of Las Vegas and also the casinos and Grease and the Whales, they sell out Allegiant. So 4 pro sports teams in a market that size sounds like a little bit of a surprise, but nevertheless, with all those hotels, wonderful destination to have a road game. And with that said, the Minnesota Timberwolves probably would go to the Eastern Conference, right?
That is basically the steam. All the reports are saying that's what all the NBA officials and owners are thinking. Because I know a lot of people will pull up the map. Memphis is technically more Eastern than Minnesota or Minneapolis is, but in terms of the conferences, Minneapolis makes infinitely more sense because then you could just group them with the Chicago Bulls, the Detroit Pistons, the Milwaukee Bucks, maybe even the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that's a nice little easy route there for the NBA.
Toronto Raptors
possibly as well. So it's one of those things. This whole story is one of those things where it's like it's been the worst kept secret in NBA circles, and more pertinent to local interests. I think the Wolves would be on their way to the Eastern Conference.
What's my man's name? Shams what? Charania, right?
Charania.
Charania.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean you got Windhorst, you have Shams, and we have Johnny Athletic. So those are the top 3 when it comes to NBA reporting. Many would say Shams for his access and his work ethic, and he's like Shefty. I mean, he's putting out stuff all the time, and it's always accurate.
And with no Woj anymore to rival him, now he's pretty much got a monopoly.
How about Shams in the WNBA? I don't know if you read this story or not. I didn't read the whole thing. I thought it was funny because people were complaining loudly about it. But then again, it's the age of rage. These reporters all had been doing this hard work, sourcing, talking to GMs, team owners, coaches, all that about the WNBA collective bargaining agreement, which just got solved. I mean, you couldn't find anything from Shams with a searchlight on that thing until they got to the finish line, and Shams came over the top, broke the story. It was all accurate. Everybody was like, "Good googly goo, man. Why don't you just stay in your lane?"
That's like one of those bits where the guy thinks he won the race already, and he's got his arms in the air, and then there's a guy sprinting, just hauling cheeks behind him that ends up winning the race.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Yes!
That is amazing right there. Sticking with the NBA, the Wolves take on the Houston Rockets tonight at the Target Center in what very well could be a preview of their first-round matchup. Anthony Edwards remains out for the Timberwolves, but he does appear trending towards returning sooner rather than later. Currently the 5th seed in the West, the Wolves are just a half game above Houston. With 10 games to go in the regular season, the Wolves will see the Rockets again in the penultimate game of the regular season.
Yours truly does not fear the LA Lakers. OKC is a different beast. We ain't talking about them right now. But yours truly does not fear the Los Angeles Lakers, because I believe with the defensive playoff intensity I know Finchie's team can play, that would be a heck of a series. Luka and LeBron and Marcus Smart and Austin Reeves, skeletal remains of DeAndre Ayton. But Parker Fox, one of the homies who howls, he brought up a very intriguing point an hour and change ago when we were talking about the Lakers, and he's like, look at the bench. I mean, okay, Jake LaRavia, he's helping. Then you get like Dalton Connect, who never plays, Luke Kennard, who does one thing, hit 3-pointers, is with Naz Reid, Ayo Dosunmu, those two specifically. I do believe that you would have an advantage there. But I like our guys if they end up having to play theirs. However, beating Houston and then getting these Nuggets to lose, the Nuggets couldn't win for a minute. They went to Memphis and got killed by the freaking Grizz. And that was last week. Well, now all of a sudden, Joker's paying attention and he's starting to care about it. He had a triple-double last night that was monstrous. So they're right in front of us. Houston's right with us. Lakers only 2 games in front of us. Lakers will beat Indiana this evening unless Pascal Siakam is playing. He hasn't played a lot of late. And, maybe old Pascal Siakam can give them some problems. And it is a road game for the Lakers. Long story longer. It would be really cool to catch the Lakers, pass the Lakers, get that 3 seed, get the 4, have home court in the first round. If you hook the Nuggets, you hook the Nuggets. If you hook the Rockets, you hook the Rockets. Lakers avoidance, low key, is in the minds of a lot of people. I wouldn't prefer the Lakers, but nevertheless, if we get them, we get them. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there, PA. Nuggets, the Wolves seemingly have had their number over the last several years now at this point, pretty much ever since that Game 7.
Yeah.
Houston, obviously a formidable team, but not quite as a scary. Well, I know we're not scared, but the Luka is playing a little scary right now. And regardless of bench, we saw what he did with that Dallas Mavericks team that had no bench.
You're a homie, so I'll howl with you. With Denver, and I'm sure it was something financial with Michael Porter. Mm-hmm. So Michael Porter ends up getting peddled to Brooklyn, and Cameron Johnson was somebody they got in return. Now, Cam Johnson, who's a really good perimeter defender when he's healthy, he's been in and out with injuries a fair amount this year. He doesn't hit it with me the way Michael Porter did.
Yeah.
Now, Porter, it's like either like Finchie does a good job, against the Nuggets, that he and that staff, but specifically Gordon and Porter. So it's like Gordon might have 15 and 8, but then Porter just shot 20%. Or Porter hits 4 threes and then Gordon shooting 20%. It's not the let Joker get his and we'll shut everybody else down, but they limit Jokic's passing as well as any team in the NBA since Joker got into the league. So I love their matchup against them. You're right. It's still Jokic, and he's formidable. But then again, when you get to the playoffs, they all are. Right. I'm curious to see what this Houston bunch offers tonight because they've been in and out of late. Amen Thompson's their point guard. Chris Finch talked about him earlier in the radio show about his ball handling, and I think Chris called Amen Thompson the best rebounding or offensive rebounding guard in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
So for Finchie to say that's lofty praise right there. So we got to watch that. Chris and staff generally have done good work against Kevin Durant, specifically when he played for Phoenix. Old people don't like contact. Okay, old people. I mean, Kevin will grab 7 or 8 rebounds occasionally, but he's not getting into the key and banging around with the bigs to get rebounds anymore. So a lot of his rebounds generally bounce to him. So I'm curious to see how they handle him tonight. Durant had 39 on him last time, went to the line 14 times. But in closing, the Rockets, a couple of months ago when they beat the Wolves 105-100, I'll never forget it. They went to hack a Rudy. They started hacking Rudy and putting him on the line. He went to the line 10 times. He made 2. And they went by us and they won the game. So this is an intriguing one tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And, it's like you said, there's no easy matchup in the Western Conference. It's star-studded. Speaking of star-studded, how about this Yankees versus Giants opening night game tonight? It's on Netflix for the first time ever. It's on Netflix, and they're bringing out the big guns. Listen to this, PA. They got Barry Bonds, Albert Pujols, CC Sabathia, even randomly Jameis Winston all on the broadcast tonight for opening night. Okay. Yankees versus Giants.
All right. Well, enjoy watching all of that. I have my Beyond the Basics Beyond the Basics of the Bible class tonight, and when that's done, I'll probably watch some Blacklist on Netflix for a little bit, and then go to Finchie's game at 8:30. So that's my night. Go baseball, go MLB, go no salary cap, and everybody have a good time.
That's all I got for today.
No, it's not.
That's all I got for today. No. But I got, you want me to bring up the Minnesota Wild?
Wild with an aorta smasher last night.
Yes, sir.
If you missed it, Coach John Hines was on 9 to noon earlier. We were winning 3-1. The Lightning just got back off a 9-day road trip. They traveled the day before. They had played. This was their 4th game in 5 nights. They were tired, and we were kicking the you-know-what out of them for about the first 28 minutes of the game. We're up 3-1. We could have beaten them 5-6, 7-1. Started turning over the puck. There were fights that started to take place. And personally speaking, I think that ignited the Tampa Bay Lightning to be like, all right, boys, they want to fight. We were going to give them one tonight because we're tired. But let's go out there and play. And then on a fluky goal against Gus, they took a 4-3 lead. Kaprizov fell. He lost his edge twice last night. It was weird, but he fell with an empty net. They went up 5-3, won at 6-3. One of those fights in the game last night involved Nick Foligno. Joe O'Donnell, the radio play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Wild, had what I'm calling the greatest fight call in the history of the NHL. And if anybody has done better, I need to hear it. Here's Joe O from last night.
And a 2-0 lead for the Wild late in the first in Tampa. And we got another fight. It's Nick Foligno and Scott Sabourin. They've dropped their gear out at center ice. Nick Foligno, his first fight with the Wild. Sabourin, the cagey minor leaguer who loves to mix it up physically.
Yeah, 6'3", 205 pounds.
Staring each other down. Left by Sabourin. Big rights by Foligno. Big left by Sabourin. They're both chucking him at center. Rights by Foligno. Left by Sabourin. Sabourin some lefts. Missing with an uppercut. Foligno ties him up. Left by Sabourin. Big left by Foligno. Missing the left was Sabourin. Couple of good shots by Foligno. Another swinging left by Sabourin. They've kind of extended each other out. Helmet is off for Sabourin. Foligno's got a good grip on the scruff of his jersey. Another left by Sabourin. Nothing there. Foligno's got him stretched out, waiting for another opportunity. Came with a left in Foligno, and he caught him. And they are hanging on here, both parties at center. Another left by Foligno. Couple of rights. Oh, a combo there by the veteran Foligno. He's got Sabourin in some trouble. Sabourin coming back with a left. Foligno trying to duck out of that. What a scrap. And they'll separate them.
Fuck. Hey, Joe O. How about that, man?
That was incredible.
Covenant claps, Maxwell. Hey. Nice job, Joe. That was fun to listen to. All right. Agent Blake Barrett joins 9 to noon around the corner. You're listening to FM 100.3 KFAN.